Welcome again to the new segment of Venezuela Insider. Today is Saturday, November 8th of 2025. Not so much on the news, so let's do a couple of reviews of the past 24 hours and the current situation. Well, the most important thing regarding, of course, this military buildup is the situation of the F carrier, the largest air carrier in the world, the USS Gerald Ford, the only one of its kind. And right now the report is there is a lot of speculation. That's why I wanted to cover it today on the news. Is on where such air carrier is, or apparently is going nowhere. Is not going to the Caribbean. I'm gonna address those allegations a little bit later. But right now the information that we have is on the west of Morocco, so just left the Mediterranean, and according to the open source intelligence is going to the Caribbean. Right now, like I said, the USS Gerald Ford is on the west side of Morocco. It's gonna navigate to the Caribbean, and right now the package, the assembled package that such air carrier has includes 5 vessels, mostly destroyers. They are in ports in Spain, so on the Mediterranean. They are assembling, doing the due diligence and yada yada and logistics and so on, in order to escort the Gerald Ford to the Caribbean. Also, we had a little bit more, let's say, official news regarding that on Fox News. It was announced that is gonna arrive in the Caribbean around November 15th, so on the later next week, and apparently it's gonna be operational. That's basically kind of like the hint that they gave us in the good people on Fox News. Other thing, going back to Fox News, today spoke the senator from Florida, Rick Scott. That, in case you don't know, Rick Scott is actually one of the more hawkish politicians in the U.S. regarding Maduro and his people and left-leaning communist governments in Latin America. And by the way, a fun anecdote, on the inauguration day, for Trump's second presidency, his invite, every major guy can have a +1, and sometimes even more. Well, Rick Scott +1 during Trump's inauguration day was actually Edmundo González Urrutia, the quote-unquote president-elect of the opposition. And according to the US, he is recognized as the president-elect of Venezuela. So, yeah, just giving you the fact. Okay, according to Senator Scott, Trump is doing a great job against drug cartels, and he wants to end this threat to U.S. national security overall. And according to the message to Maduro is, Maduro's days are numbered. If I were him, I will be leaving right now, going to Russia or China or Turkey, I believe, also mentioned. And he mentioned that he is not the president of Venezuela yet. Like I said previously, he recognizes Edmundo González. Okay, I want to also make an update or where are positioning most of the assets right now, the military assets in the build-up in the Caribbean. First, we have the Iwo Jima. It's a WASP-class ship. In Spanish, it's a small aircraft carrier, but mostly for amphibious operations. Right now, the Iwo Jima is in St. Croix, the US Virgin Islands. And also the rest of the package, because it includes 2 destroyers. One is in Ponce, Puerto Rico, and the other one is in Jamaica, doing some humanitarian efforts over there. Okay, the other destroyers, the Jason Dunham is in St. Thomas, also US Virgin Islands. The USS Gravely is in Trinidad and Tobago, last time checked. The USS Stockdale is in Ponce, Puerto Rico. The Lake Erie, the Ticonderoga. I'm still figuring out what a Ticonderoga class destroyer is in Ponce, Puerto Rico. The Gettysburg is also in Ponce, Puerto Rico. The Waters is the USNS, I believe, is mostly logistics, is in Ponce, Puerto Rico last time. The USSS Wichita is in Florida. And the MV Ocean Trader, this typical ghost ship for special operations, is also in Ponce, Puerto Rico. Now, something that I want to conclude today, because I'm seeing terrible, terrible, terrible analysis and I'm losing my patience. And I reached the conclusion that it cannot be that so many people are so stupid and ignorant. At first I thought it was just stupidity and ignorance, because I know understanding Venezuela is very, 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 very complicated. I struggle with that, despite the fact that I'm a Venezuelan, over 30 years in the country, and also I'm an engineer, I'm an economist, so I have to, and it's hard to keep up with it, only with these industries, let alone with the whole political, macroeconomical, social situation, sentiment, foreign affairs, yada yada yada. It's very hard. So I understand that it's difficult, and a lot of people want to have a voice, especially people from, let's say, the US or Europe. They don't speak Spanish, they haven't been in the country, or they have a strong particular bias either towards the left or this new kind of, let's call it this, I call it, some people call it the woke right, but it's not even that. It's like this authoritarian right sympathy, pro Putin and things like that. And I'm seeing, deplorable. Now, you can have your own bias. I mean, you do you. But what you cannot have is your own facts. And that's why when I get upset. And so what I'm seeing right now, a lot of misinformation and disinformation beyond terrible analysis usually comes from liberal media, New York Times and CNN. Now, I want to give credit to these particular outlets because they are hit and miss, or either they are very good or very bad. But now the rule of thumb that I'm using, please don't trust any op-ed coming from those outlets. Straight up news. And afterwards we will know if they are telling the truth or they are lying. It's easy to know. Okay. The second bunch of people is this, weird right. I'm not calling it woke right, but it's a weird right, Putin, things like that. And some of these people either don't want a war, or somehow they are pro Maduro. If you completely understandable that you are anti-war, I'm anti-war, I don't want to see a war, but remember, this platform is not about what we want, it's about what it is. And I don't want a war, but if a war is going on, I have to report it, and I have to my analysis and my due diligence on that particular fact. Okay, and the second thing, if you are pro-Maduro, I mean, I'm agnostic to politics, but if you are pro-Maduro, okay, knock yourself out. The thing is, don't give false statements about it. And that's the issue. Okay, so what I'm seeing, okay, on this second cohort, is mostly because since they don't want a war, so they are making a bunch of lies, a bunch of terrible statements, false allegations, horrific analysis, yada 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 yada. And I understand that most the Americans that from this side, the weird right, they don't want a Vietnam, they don't like neocons and things like that. Completely understandable. So we're on the same page on that regard. We don't want a war, we don't want neocons, we don't want another Vietnam, another Iraq. Okay, I get it. But that is completely different. So please keep aside your personal bias compared to the actual situation in Venezuela, because it's not Iraq, it's not Vietnam, it's a very complex situation. And I've been years trying to explain. Please, if you can watch just a couple of the previous videos on the past, since the beginning, you can understand that. But anyways, something I wanted to keep up because I know most of you, and this is why I'm doing this final statement regarding this terrible analysis. Most of you come here because you want true information about the country. You don't want, the crap that you see mostly on social media or out there. I know there's also a lot of outdated information about Venezuela, something that I like to keep up because, for instance, when we got scarcity of products in 2016, 2017, people still think 2022, something like that was going on, and that got solved 2019, 2021, something like that. Okay, just one example. So that will be all for today. Thanks again for your attention, and we'll see each other on the next video.